Imagine it is the year 2030. You walk into a grocery store. You pick up a steak, a bottle of wine, and some coffee. You walk to the checkout. You tap your phone to pay. But instead of a beep, you hear a buzz. A red notification flashes on the screen. Transaction denied. You are confused. You know you have money. You just got paid yesterday. You check your banking app. The balance is there. $5,000. But there is a small alert icon next to the balance. You tap it. A message expands. Carbon allowance exceeded for the month of September. Meat products restricted. You feel a cold knot in your stomach. You put the steak back. You try to buy just the coffee. This time, it works. But then, you notice something else. Your savings account balance is lower than it was last week. You haven't spent anything from it. You check the transaction history. There is a recurring charge labeled negative interest rate adjustment. Because the economy is slow, the Federal Reserve has decided that saving money is bad for the recovery. They want you to spend, so they are taxing your savings at 1% per month. Your money is rotting. It has an expiration date. If you do not spend it, it vanishes. You realize with a terrifying clarity that the money in your account is no longer yours. It is a voucher system. It is a system of permission. You are allowed to spend it, but only on the things they want, when they want, and where they want. This is not a scene from a dystopian sci-fi movie. This is the programmable reality of a central bank digital currency, or CBDC, and the infrastructure to build this reality is being laid right now. It is called FedNow. Most people think we are just upgrading the banking system to make it faster. They think this is about convenience. But convenience is the bait. The hook is control. We are witnessing the end of money as we know it. We are moving from an era of bearer assets where you hold the value to an era of ledger entries where you hold a permission slip. Today, on Finance Prism, we are going to expose the mechanics of the digital dollar. We are going to explain the critical difference between FedNow and a CBDC. We will decode the concept of programmable money and show you how it fundamentally changes the nature of human freedom. And we will answer the most important question. In a world of total financial surveillance, is there any exit door left? This is not a conspiracy theory. This is financial engineering. Welcome to the end of cash. To understand the trap, you first have to understand the mechanism. And right now, the mechanism that is confusing everyone is a new service launched by the Federal Reserve called FedNow. Launched in July of 2023, FedNow is marketed as a revolution in payments. And on the surface, it sounds great. If you have ever tried to send a wire transfer on a Friday afternoon, you know the pain. The money disappears from your account, but it doesn't show up in the other person's account until Monday or Tuesday. In the age of the internet, where emails are instant, why does money take 3 days to move? It takes 3 days because the underlying plumbing of the United States banking system, the Automated Clearinghouse, or ACH, was built in the 1970s. It is a batch processing system. It is like a physical mail truck. It only leaves the station once or twice a day. It is slow. It is outdated. FedNow fixes this. It is a real-time gross settlement system. It allows banks to settle payments instantly, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. If you send money at 3 a.m. on Christmas morning, it arrives at 3 a.m. and 1 second. So the Federal Reserve says, look, we are just modernizing the rails. We are just helping you get your paycheck faster. And technically they are telling the truth. FedNow is not a CBDC. It is not a new currency. It is a payment rail. But this is where the sleight of hand happens. Think of FedNow as the high-speed railway tracks. Think of the CBDC as the train. You cannot run the train without the tracks. Before the government can introduce a fully digital programmable currency, they first need to condition the population to expect instant digital settlement. They need to get every bank in the country plugged into a centralized infrastructure run directly by the Federal Reserve. FedNow centralizes the plumbing. Before FedNow, banks relied on a mix of private clearinghouses and slow-fed systems. Now, the Federal Reserve is positioning itself as the central hub for every instant transaction in the economy. This creates a network effect. Once every bank, every merchant, and every employer is hooked into the FedNow system because it is fast and cheap, switching to a CBDC becomes incredibly easy. It is just a software update. FedNow is the Trojan horse. It enters the gates of the financial system bearing the gift of convenience. Instant payments. No more waiting. But inside, the belly of the horse lies the infrastructure for total control. It creates a direct line of communication between the central bank and the commercial banking layer that never existed before in real time. It accustoms the public to the idea that the Federal Reserve is a consumer-facing service provider. And once the rails are laid, the train is coming. President Joe Biden issued Executive Order 14067, placing the highest urgency on the research and development of a United States CBDC. The project is not hypothetical. It is in development. They are running pilot programs with major banks right now. So, what exactly is the difference between the digital dollars you have in your Bank of America app right now and a CBDC? Why does it matter if the money is digital? It is already digital, right? The difference is not in the format, the difference is in the ledger. The difference is in who owns the database. Let's dismantle a common myth. People say, I use a credit card for everything. The bank already knows what I buy. Google knows what I buy. Why should I care if the government knows? This is a dangerous false equivalency. Right now, we have a two-tier banking system. When you deposit money at Wells Fargo or Chase, that is a liability of the commercial bank. The database that records your transactions belongs to a private company. Yes, the government can see that data, but they need a warrant. They need a subpoena. There is legal friction. There is a wall, however thin, between the state and your wallet. With a central bank digital currency, that wall is demolished. A, C, B, D, C is a direct liability of the Federal Reserve. The ledger, the list of who owns what and who spent what, is held by the central bank itself. This creates a financial panopticon. The panopticon is a concept of a prison where the guard tower is in the center, and all the cells are arranged in a circle around it. The guard can see into every cell at all times, but the prisoners cannot see the guard. Because the prisoners know they might be watched at any moment, they behave as if they are always being watched. With a CBDC, the Federal Reserve has granular, real-time visibility into every single transaction in the economy. They will know that you bought a bottle of tequila at 4 p.m. on a Tuesday. They will know you donated $50 to a controversial political candidate. They will know you bought ammunition. They will know you bought a book about civil disobedience. Currently, cash provides a buffer. Cash is anonymous. Cash is peer-to-peer. When you hand someone a $20 bill, there is no intermediary. There is no server recording the exchange. It is a private interaction between two free citizens. Cash allows for privacy. It allows for dignity. But a CBDC removes the option of privacy. Even if they claim it will be anonymous for small transactions, the code can be changed overnight. Augustine Carstens, the general manager of the Bank for International Settlements, the central bank of central banks, said the quiet part out loud in a video that has now gone viral. He said, quote, "We don't know who's using a $100 bill today, and we don't know who's using a 1,000 peso bill today. The key difference with the CBDC is the central bank will have absolute control on the rules and regulations that will determine the use of that expression of central bank liability, and we will have the technology to enforce that." Did you catch that? Absolute control. Technology to enforce. He is admitting that the goal is not efficiency. The goal is surveillance and enforcement. They want to know every penny you earn and every penny you spend. Why? Because information is power. If they know your spending habits, they can build a profile on you. They can calculate your carbon footprint. They can assess your political alignment. And once they have that data, they can move to the next phase. The phase where they don't just watch what you do with your money, but they tell you what you can do with it. This is the scariest chapter. This is where we move from surveillance to slavery. The unique feature of a digital currency is that it is programmable. Money, for thousands of years, has been a neutral tool. A gold coin does not care who holds it. A gold coin does not care if you buy bread or if you buy a weapon. It is an inanimate object. It represents value and nothing else. A CBDC is not an inanimate object. It is software code. And code can have rules written into it. It can have if-then statements. If the user does X, then the money does Y. Let's look at the mechanisms of control that this technology enables. Mechanism number 1, the expiration date. China has already tested this with their digital yuan. The government can issue money that expires if it is not spent within a certain time frame. Why would they do this? To simulate the economy. If a recession is coming and people are saving money out of fear, the government can simply say, you must spend your stimulus check within 30 days or it disappears. This destroys the function of money as a store of value. You cannot save for the future if your money rots like fruit. It forces you to be a perpetual consumer. Mechanism number 2. Negative interest rates. For years, economists have complained about the zero lower bound. They can lower interest rates to zero, but they struggle to go lower because people will just take their cash out of the bank and put it under the mattress. You cannot charge negative interest on physical cash. But if physical cash is banned, and you are forced to use a digital dollar, the Fed can simply press a button and apply a negative 2% rate to your savings account. They can confiscate your wealth automatically to force you to spend. You have no escape valve. Mechanism number 3. Gated spending. This is where it gets dystopian. The money can be programmed to work only for certain goods or services. Imagine a world where your carbon footprint is tracked. The government decides you have used too much gasoline this month. You go to the gas station, you tap your phone, the transaction fails. Not because you lack funds, but because your funds have been turned off for that specific merchant code. Or imagine you are overweight, and the government decides, for your own health, that you cannot buy sugary drinks. Your money works at the vegetable aisle, but it stops working at the soda aisle. Mechanism number 4. Political control. We saw a preview of this in Canada during the trucker protests. The government invoked emergency powers and froze the bank accounts of protesters without a court order. They cut them off from the financial system. With a CBDC, this becomes instant and algorithmic. If you are deemed a dissident, or if you score too low on a social credit system, your digital wallet could be frozen. You could be exiled from the economy with a keystroke. You couldn't buy food, you couldn't pay rent, you couldn't buy a bus ticket. This is the ultimate lever of power. It turns money from a tool of freedom into a tool of compliance. It creates a system where you are allowed to exist only as long as you obey. And if you think this sounds like paranoia, look at the country that is already doing it. If you want to see the future of the US financial system, look east. China is years ahead in the development of its CBDC, the eCNY, or digital yuan. They have integrated it into their apps like WeChat and Alipay. Millions of citizens are using it, and it is being integrated with their social credit system. In China, if your social credit score drops because you jaywalked, or played too many video games, or criticized the government online, you face real-world consequences. You are banned from buying plane tickets. You are banned from buying high-speed train tickets. Your internet speed is throttled. Your access to loans is restricted. The CBDC is the final piece of this puzzle. It closes the loop. It gives the state granular control over the economic behavior of every citizen. They frame it as building trust and enhancing stability. But it is a digital prison. Western central bankers look at China not with horror, but with envy. They see the efficiency. They see the power. Neil Kashkari, the president of the Federal Reserve Bank of Minneapolis, famously said, "I can see why China would do it." If they want to monitor every one of your transactions, you can do that with a CBDC. You can't do that with Venmo. If you want to impose negative interest rates, you can do that with a CBDC. You can't do that with Venmo. He admits the capability. He questions times why, times the US would do it, playing the skeptic. But the Federal Reserve is proceeding with the technology anyway. Project Hamilton, a collaboration between the Boston Fed and MIT, has already built the codebase for a high-speed digital dollar. They have proven the technology works. The gun is built. It is sitting on the table. The only question is when they will pick it up. The blueprint is clear. First, introduce the rails. Fed now. Second, introduce the digital wallet for convenience, or stimulus distribution. Third, phase out physical cash. Fourth, introduce programmability during a crisis. We need to fight inflation, so we are capping how much meat you can buy. We need to fight a virus, so your money only works within a 5-mile radius of your home to enforce lockdown. Crisis is always the catalyst for control. This brings us to the technological fork in the road. We are entering a digital age. Money times will times become digital. That is inevitable. Paper cash is clumsy in a world of fiber optics. But we have two distinct paths for digital money. One path leads to the CBDC, the centralized surveillance coin controlled by the state. The other path leads to Bitcoin, the decentralized, neutral money controlled by no one. We need to analyze the architectural difference between push money and pull money. ACBDC is pull money or controllable money. The authority has administrative access to your account. They can pull money out, negative rates. They can freeze it. They can revert transactions. You are essentially a user on their database. You have no sovereignty. Bitcoin is push money. It works like digital cash. When you hold the private keys, you are the only person on earth who can move those funds. You push the transaction to the network. No one can reach into your wallet and pull it out. No one can freeze the network. No one can censor your transaction because they don't like your politics. It is permissionless. You do not need an ID to create a Bitcoin wallet. You do not need a credit score. You do not need the approval of a bank manager. It is neutral, like gravity. Gravity works the same for a saint and a sinner. Bitcoin processes transactions for everyone equally. This is why the establishment hates it. This is why they call it money for criminals. Because they cannot control it. Because it offers an opt-out from their surveillance system. In a world of programmable money, Bitcoin is the only asset that cannot be programmed against your will. It is the only money that cannot be diluted by printing more of it. It is the separation of money and state. The battle of the 21st century is not between capitalism and communism. It is between centralization and decentralization. Between the panopticon and privacy. Between the CBDC and Bitcoin. The government knows this. That is why they are cracking down. That is why they are implementing Operation Choke Point 2.0, creating immense pressure on banks to cut off crypto companies. They are trying to close the exit doors before they turn on the CBDC system. But before they can trap you in the digital system, they have to kill the analog alternative. They have to kill cash. Look around. The war on cash is already underway. It is subtle, but it is relentless. Step 1. Inconvenience. Banks are closing branches and ATMs at a record pace. Have you tried to withdraw $5,000 in cash recently? They treat you like a criminal. They ask questions. What is this for? Why do you need cash? They make you fill out forms. They make you wait. They are adding friction to the physical world to push you into the digital world. Step 2. Limits. Countries around the world are lowering the limit on legal cash transactions. In France, you cannot pay more than 1,000 euros in cash. In Israel, they are aggressively restricting cash usage. In the UK, they are removing cash acceptance from public transport. The narrative is always, cash is for drug dealers and tax evaders. If you are a good citizen, you use digital. Step 3. The coin shortage. Remember the signs during the pandemic? National coin shortage. Please use card. Whether it was real or managed, it accelerated the habit of digital payment. Businesses stopped accepting cash. Card-only signs are popping up everywhere. Stadiums, festivals, coffee shops. Step 4. Inflation. This is the invisible killer of cash. As inflation destroys the purchasing power of the dollar, the physical bills become less useful. A $100 bill today buys what $20 bought a few decades ago. Yet, they do not print $500 bills or $1,000 bills. They keep the denominations small to make carrying large amounts of value in cash physically difficult. To buy a used car in cash, you need a backpack. It becomes impractical. This is a coordinated effort to herd the sheep into the digital pen. Once cash is gone, there is no anonymity. There is no offline transaction. Every exchange of value must pass through the digital turnstile of the state. And once everyone is through the turnstile, they can lock the gate. So, where does this leave us? The future looks like a bifurcation. On one side, the masses will drift into the CBDC system. They will accept the convenience of FedNow. They will accept the universal basic income stimulus checks that come with strings attached. They will live in a world where their financial lives are transparent to the state, and their purchasing power is managed by algorithm. On the other side, a minority will seek to preserve their sovereignty. They will recognize the trap. So, what is the exit strategy? How do you protect yourself? First, maintain optionality. Do not keep 100% of your wealth in the banking system. If your money is in a bank, it is not your money, it is an IOU from the bank, subject to the rules of the system. Second, own bearer assets. A bearer asset is something you own simply by holding it. Physical gold and silver are bearer assets. If you have a gold coin in your hand, you do not need electricity or the internet to own it. It has value outside of the banking system. It is insurance against the death of the dollar. Third, understand the digital lifeboat. Bitcoin, when held in self-custody, meaning you hold your own private keys on a hardware wallet, is a digital bearer asset. It allows you to transport wealth anywhere in the world without permission. It allows you to transact with others who have opted out. It is the only money that is specifically designed to resist the censorship of a CBDC. Fourth, use cash. While you still can, use cash for local transactions. Support businesses that accept cash. Keep a stash of physical cash at home for emergencies. Cash is the vote for privacy. Every time you swipe a card, you are voting for the surveillance state. The transition to a digital currency is the single biggest change to the monetary system since we went off the gold standard in 1971. It changes the relationship between the citizen and the state. It turns the citizen from a master into a subject. The technology is neutral. It could be used for good. It could be used to stop corruption, to track government spending, to create transparency for the elites. But history tells us that power never uses surveillance to watch itself. It uses surveillance to watch you. The end of cash is coming, the infrastructure is being built. The FedNow rails are live. The question is not if it will happen. The question is, will you be dependent on their system when they flip the switch? Or will you have built your own independence? This is Finance Prism. We exist to shine a light on the mechanics of the financial system so you can navigate it with open eyes. If this deep dive helped you understand the stakes of the digital dollar, hit that subscribe button. We will keep tracking the development of FedNow and the CBDC agenda. And I want to hear from you in the comments. What scares you more? The loss of privacy with a CBDC or the loss of purchasing power through inflation? Do you think the US government will eventually ban cash completely? Let us know your thoughts below. Stay liquid, stay private, and stay sovereign.